Very good evening and welcome again. Now, as we all know, Sheffield Wednesday fans, not everything goes according to plan, but you can still have a very good time doing it. And that's where we're placed here in the Sheffield Live studio tonight. I'm really indebted to Lawrie Madden coming to the rescue because Jose Semedo has a slight geographical problem. Jose will be appearing here either next week or the week after. We got our weeks slightly mixed up, and the geographical problem is we're approximately 1,000 miles apart as we speak, as I realised to my slight consternation in mid-afternoon today. But Lawrie was always a man for a rescuing tackle, a saving last-ditch, beautifully timed tackle. So I'm really pleased that you could join us.
Pleasure.
And alongside a remarkable man that you may not have seen, but you will hear plenty about as the summer goes on. His name is Ray Matthews. He's from Rotherham, but we're qualifying him by saying he's from South Yorkshire, because in Sheffield here and everywhere, I think we're going to be very proud of this guy. He's about to become 75 years of age, and that's an achievement in itself, by the way. Congratulations, Ray.
Thank you.
He's going to celebrate it by running. Go, tell us what you're going to do. Tell us what you're going to do.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be running 75 marathons in 75 days.
Get away.
And starting on my 75th birthday.
Blimey.
And the idea is that I raise £75,000.
So it all fits together
It all fits
superbly.
perfect.
It all makes perfect sense,
Yep.
other than the fact that you're 75 and you're attempting this Herculean feat. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me at all, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that possibly is to most people. But it's not something that I feel that I can't do, otherwise I probably wouldn't even be thinking about it. I am capable of doing it mentally.
Physically?
I've got a body that's 75 years old, but it's quite a willing body that has come along with me in the past, and it allows me to have done some great challenges over the last few years. So there is no reason why it can't be done.
Including the desert run. No reason it can't be done, Lawrie.
No, I mean, just thinking about it, you know, it's a hell of a project, and I wish Ray all the best. I think he's got all the support from a lot of people, and I hope you sort of reach your target. It's a worthy target. We were talking earlier, and it is a worthy target.
It certainly is, and you're on your own there, Ray. By the way, you're on your own. The target is to raise £75,000 for Newman School, special school at Whiston in Rotherham. We'll talk more about that and all the details, and talk more about why you're doing this and how you're preparing for it a bit later.
Okay.
Laurie's only going to make the first half tonight. He's got a stamina problem already, so he's going to make the first half. So we're going to top and sail Sheffield Wednesday's remarkable season, a proud season, which finished at Wembley last Saturday. You and I were both there. First of all, feeling from it, or what was your gut feeling at full time as you came away from the stadium?
I think most people probably felt Wednesday didn't do enough to win the game from that point of view. And I mean, I think the occasion will live long in the memory of the fans and supporters. But I think the club now really have to sort of put closure on that and start moving on, and they have to move on very quickly because it's changing. You know, we've only seen today 3 different managers going into the Championship. You know, there've been about half a dozen in the last few weeks. So all of a sudden, you know, other clubs are starting to get their act together. So Wednesday now have to put that to the side. You know, the fans can remember it for a long time and all the rest of it, and it'll live long in the memory for a lot of people. Fantastic day and everything else, but the club now need to sort of move on.
Yeah, they do. Having lost 2 or 3 weeks effectively anyway, because of the success of reaching the playoff final, so they're starting late. To start late.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, whether you win or lose, I mean, Hull now are having to start late because all of a sudden they're having to look at a different type of player, and so Wednesday are now not sure what they're going to do, so they're now starting to say right. But I would have thought they would have had, both clubs would have probably had a shopping list. Depending on either division, they would have made eventualities if they've got any sense. You know, be prepared. You know, planning and all that type of stuff. You know, so I would imagine that they would have already had an idea. All this stuff saying, well, we're not not doing it. I don't buy it personally. If you're in a professional outfit, whether it's football or any other business, you've got to start thinking about all different eventualities. And there's only two: either in the same division or you move up one. And if you move up one, what do we need? If you're going to stay in the same division, what do we need?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like you say, that Carlos Carvalhal and Dejphon Chansiri would have met and discussed before Wembley those two lists that you're talking about. It's the B list, as it turns out, rather than the A list for the Premier League. But the final kind of split in two, didn't it, in terms of a non-performance by the team standards on the field, but an absolutely unbelievable, fantastic display of fervour and patriotism from the supporters, 40,000 of them.
Yeah, and I suppose if they'd got a few more tickets, there might have been a few more there. So the lucky 40,000, should we say, from that point of view. But as I said, I think now the fans, it'll live long in the memory. But I think the club can't afford to live on those memories. They've got to now put that to the background and be really pretty ruthless and meticulous where they go now. And as you said, it is a very short window that they've got. And obviously European football, they're playing in the Euro Championship. A lot of players are going to be involved one way or another. So it makes it a little bit harder when there's competitions going on in the close season.
I must say it's been difficult balancing for my column this week, trying to get the balance between the head in the clouds. And a lot of supporters have been there because they haven't seen anything like that in their lifetime, and feet on the floor. Looking at that is so different from the perspective from, say, your day. You played in 91, you got the 93 FA Cup final, you won the League Cup in 91, and it strikes me that despite that being a trophy-winning occasion and 93 being an FA Cup final, the fervour was actually greater this time. What do you think?
Not totally convinced on that one. And the one against when we played Man United, I think the fans were pretty up for it on that occasion. But I think part of it is that this year the team, the management and the chairman gave fans hope and optimism, which they've not had for a long period of time.
It's that gap, isn't it?
Yeah. I think because it's been such a long time before they got into it, and I think there was a lot of hope and optimism. And I think that's what they rekindled, and if they see a team having a go for them, then the Wednesday fans are as good as anyone.
Whereas, although there's been a lot of criticism of the Hull City support, which is quite unfair for the 25,000 of them who were actually in the stadium. I mean, it was almost as if they were being criticised. It was more the others, 10,000 or so, who didn't come. But Hull have had relatively successful times recently, haven't they? Been in the Premier League twice. It's the third spell now.
Well, I think the main aim is a bit like Burnley. If you're going to get relegated, you've got to try and get back up within that 3 years, because that's when your money, now, if you don't, then that's when the problems start kicking in. If you can get back up in the first couple of years or so, then you're going to get the money if you go down again, and I think Hull have been, and Burnley have done the same,
OK, we're going to kick on in terms of what Sheffield Wednesday need, the kind of players they need to buy. Ray, you're in Rotherham. That's a fair footballing town. New manager as well this week, newly appointed Alan Stubbs. But I don't think you have much time to follow football with all the running that you do you?
No, I don't. No, but I often see the Rotherham footballers at the gym that I frequent to mix the training up a bit. The players often come in, and I must admit they seem a different breed from a few years ago.
Yeah, because you were a good boy, schoolboy footballer.
Yeah, I were. Yeah.
Well, how do you mean a different breed?
Well.
And this isn't aimed at Rotherham.
No,
and Rotherham
this is
players,
aimed at
general.
No, I think if it. I am so critical of today's modern game, and because I've played football and enjoyed football, I no longer enjoy what I see most of the time.
Why is that?
There's so much what I call not professional football in it. The shirt tugging, pulling, holding, pettiness. It's not. As I've said before, I always say that. And unfortunately, everybody gets tied by the same brush, is that footballers tend to spend 90 minutes pretending to be hurt, rolling down pitch half a dozen times. And then you've got rugby players who spend 80 minutes pretending not to be hurt. And whilst they're not all alike, I see more and more of that, and I really would not. I'm really glad I'm not in it.
And I suppose when you're running 26 miles and you're carrying a calf strain or whatever, you're always going to be carrying some kind of injury.
Yeah,
when
you're never
doing
free.
That. I can understand.
You're never free.
The shirt pulling and tugging, that didn't happen so much in your time, did it, Lawrie?
No, I mean, I've always been pretty clear on this. You know, when I say, for instance, like at set pieces, at corners and free kicks, you see attackers and defenders almost grappling, putting their arms around it. I just think it'd be fairly straightforward. Referees just gave a penalty. I think if they gave a penalty, then it would soon stop. So, and if you did it, then you would know that you're risking giving away a penalty in a dangerous area.
It needs 2 or 3 to do it. Anyway, Sheffield Wednesday, specific subject. We talked about managers. Alan Stubbs at Rotherham, Owen Coyle at Blackburn, Gary Monk at Leeds is on a rolling contract. I think that's pretty appropriate at Elland Road, don't you, to be on a rolling contract. But specifically, the big clubs, Aston Villa, well, not that Leeds isn't, Roberto Di Matteo, a Champions League winning manager, as is Rafa Benitez, staying at Newcastle, and you've also got your mate Nigel Pearson at Derby. Competition or what?
Well, very much so. I mean, a lot of it depends on, you know, and for Sheffield Wednesday, what resources they're going to be given. You know, I mean, to be honest, the 6 clubs that got promoted or in the playoffs were probably the 6 clubs that spent the most money last year. May not necessarily been in that order. I think Derby probably spent a little bit more, so they probably might argue they underachieved a little bit, you know. But, you know, Wednesday spent quite a bit. Middlesbrough went big in the market. They bought Rose up front. You know, everyone went out and bought players. So a lot of it, and I know we talk about Leicester overachieving for what they've done, but in the main, the teams that spend the money and they spend it wisely seem to be the teams that do be successful. You do get exceptions, and Leicester has been a marvellous exception.
Now, Wednesday are going to have to keep pace with the spending to whatever degree they can. But I see Mr. Shansiri being very committed and serious about this. Do you think he will invest more and kick on that way?
Well, I think he seems to have got the Wembley bug and the fans and the fervour, and he's sort of grown with it. And so far, he's given the fans hope and optimism, and he's gone into the market and backed the manager, and he's brought players in, and he seems to be saying the same thing. So, you know, and he's been true to his word so far. Then I wouldn't be surprised if there are targets in the pipeline.
What areas would you be looking to strengthen?
Well, I think you'd probably be looking to strengthen all areas, but I think at the back, I'm not totally convinced that we're good enough at the back, and also in the middle of the park. And obviously, you know, he's done the system whereby he played big men up the front, and then he changed it and put, you know, skillful, sort of quick, pacey men down, and he has a plan A and a plan B. So it'd be interesting how he decides to develop that. You know, the one thing Carlos is, I think at the start of the season, he only had a plan A. And then he really, you know, was playing passing from the back, and it was like 20 passes to go outside the half and everything else. And teams, he was finding it difficult to break down. And I think he adapted to the Championship football quite well then, and he changed it. And all of a sudden, it weren't working. They went a bit more direct at times, so they varied it a lot more. I think probably he didn't vary it enough in the cup final.
Yeah.
Probably, you know, if there was one thing that you could say, he learned during the season, but in the cup final, he went back to old type in a way. You know?
There seemed to be a contentment with just keeping the ball and possession for possession's sake in the first 15, 20 minutes. When Wednesday looked very comfortable, but didn't look like hurting Hull, did they, in any way?
When they started off at the season, they were pleasing on the eye, knocking the ball about, very good, but in terms of chances and in terms of results, it didn't work. He then decided that he would mix it up a little bit, and all of a sudden started playing. I mean, at the beginning of the season, the goalkeeper threw every ball out to the full-back or the centre-half. Then he started kicking the ball up, getting the ball forward a bit quicker, mixing it up a little bit, you know. And so they went back to old type a little bit, really. I think they thought, we're at Wembley, it's going to be a passing game, we're good passers about it, and we'll work it through. And I'm not quite sure it worked. Hull, in the end, you know, defended very well. And the interesting thing, I was listening to a couple of their players, they're quite good. And when it's level, or if they're in front, what they've not been good this year, Hull, is when they go behind. So if Wednesday got in front, it would have been interesting, but they never really looked like getting in front.
No, they didn't. It was interesting to contrast the two styles as well, because Hull were far more direct, and they got the ball downfield to some very pacey players. I think they had more pace in the team, explosive pace and power with the likes of El Mohammadi and Diarmi, Hernandez. What did you think?
Well, I think probably. I mean, at the end of the day, they're so-called, sort of
Bigger players.
they're big
Huddleston
time.
in the middle.
Yeah, they're sort of their big name players. Probably came, did more on the day than Wednesday's players. And it's just happened. People like Forestieri has been fantastic all year, but he had a relatively quiet game. And some of the players that we're relying on to. Who can turn that spark, who can just change a game. There wasn't a spark there for them to change it.
It was only one game, and you back Wednesday to have the nucleus of a promotion bid at least next season, wouldn't you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, you're talking about Newcastle. Benitez is there. I would imagine they will go big in the market. Also. They've got players, a bit like Hull, they've got a lot of players who've had Premiership experience, and that would hold them in good stead. The one that would be interested to see is Villa, because they were in free fall. Whether or not they can adapt to the Championship would be interesting. That would be a difficult one. Derby, a bit like Sheffield Wednesday, got to the playoffs. What are they going to do now? Are they going to invest again, go a little bit? Heard Nigel Pearson today talking about tweaking it. What's a tweak and what's a massive surgery these days? What I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know him well, and you know his psyche and how he's likely to approach that job. Yeah,
I mean, I would have thought that he's already probably assessed the squad and players that he knows. He'll have seen them, and he'll have already sort of be pretty close in his own mind. The players that he thinks will be going to be good for the club, and players areas where he thinks he might need reinforcements.
As far as Wednesday are concerned, going to recruit the best in the Championship if they can. Do you think that's going to be the game plan?
Well, you would argue maybe the best in the Championship, or maybe the best that you can get from the Premiership. If they're not, like Forestieri was one who was in the. Can you get someone? Getting them out of the Premiership if they're not quite what that club is looking for, or they feel they've got cover in that area.
Another two of his calibre would make an enormous difference in whatever position, wouldn't they?
And the other side is, Carlos is, from Portugal. We don't know what his contacts are in the overseas market, so that might be something to explore.
Well, he's done a very good job. Let's be fair to him and the chairman. I mean, over the season, and credits to the Wednesday fans as well. They stayed behind. They'd seen a poor performance relatively, but they stayed behind en masse to salute the players, and I think that's healthy from the club's point of view looking forward.
Well, I think if you're having a go for the fans, I mean, and they're doing well. I mean, there was a few occasions during the season, like Arsenal and various other places, where the stadium was rocking. If you can get a little bit of momentum going there, and you get the fans on board, and they see that you're having a go, then Hillsborough is still a great stadium when it's full, and there's something at stake. It's still, a lot of these other clubs have gone for new stadiums, and it hasn't quite worked. Do
I watched in your day, as you know, many times, and I've seen bigger crowds, but I honestly thought the Brighton first leg of that playoff semi-final was as good an atmosphere as I've ever experienced at Hillsborough.
Yeah, Arsenal early in the season was fantastic. There's some, as I said, if there's big games on at Hillsborough and the crowd turn up in their numbers, then it's a hard place to beat in terms of an atmosphere, especially the fans behind you, and they're singing from all parts of the ground. It's not just like one area behind the goal or something, but wherever they are, they're all dotted around sort of singing.
Willing them on, but of course there will be expectation next season, which there wasn't to that extent this season.
Yeah, and you're going to have to live with that. That's part. It's a bit like, I bet Newcastle fans will have expectations now. Benitez has stayed there. Derby fans will have expectations now that Nigel Pearson's gone in with his background and his pedigree. So Wednesday will be no different. They will have their expectations, and the fans will be busy looking to see, speculation, who they're going after, what areas are they looking.
Yeah, looking at Blades as well. By the way, Blades fans, I owe you. It's because of Wembley and Wednesday, we've had to keep the focus there, but I always repay my debts, and I promise you one or two special things coming up with Sheffield Live TV. So do follow us for that, and a very special thing coming after the break as well, with Ray Matthews telling us how not only is he going to attempt to do 75 marathons in 75 days at the age of 75, but he surely will. He was absolutely confident about this and raising the money. Goodness me, there's a lot more to ask him. Lawrie, thanks ever so much for coming in. Look forward to seeing you soon, and see you in about 5 minutes. See you then. Bye.